The stars were quiet that night. In the vast emptiness of space, the fleets of the Galactic Throne moved with perfect precision. Hundreds of warships glided in formation, their weapons charged, ready for whatever threat might appear. Commanders spoke through their comms, confident that no enemy could challenge them. They had ruled these sectors for centuries, and the human race was a known minor threat, hardly worth worrying about, but none of them expected what would happen next. Without warning, a single warship appeared where there had been nothing moments before. It was huge, sleek, and unlike any human design they had ever seen. Its hull shimmered faintly, cloaked in a technology that bent light itself. The sensors of the Galactic Throne ships flickered, trying to detect it, but the readings were strange, almost impossible. Admiral Zorath, who had led countless campaigns, stared at the screen in disbelief. "This cannot be real," he muttered. His officers tried to explain, but no one could. The warship had decloaked silently, emerging from the dark void, and it carried an aura of power that made even seasoned veterans uneasy. Inside the human ship, the crew moved with calm precision. Captain Arlen stood on the bridge, his eyes scanning countless holographic displays. He did not speak much, but every movement he made told the crew they were about to witness history. Every human on board knew what they were capable of, but even they felt a shiver of awe as the Galactic Throne's fleet appeared on their sensors. Thousands of ships, armed with the deadliest weapons known in the galaxy, surrounded a single human warship. Yet Arlen did not panic. He had trained for this. He had dreamed of this moment. The Galactic Throne did not give any warning. Their first strike launched immediately. Lasers streaked across space, lighting the darkness with deadly precision. Shields flared on the human warship, absorbing impact after impact. The humans responded with speed and accuracy that shocked the enemy. Small drones fired missiles that found weak spots in the alien ships. Energy pulses struck in perfect rhythm, as if the humans had studied every move before it happened. Zora's fleet faltered. He had underestimated humans for too long. The unknown warship did not just fight back, it outmaneuvered them, striking at the heart of their fleet in ways they had never imagined. Alarm bells rang on the command decks, and officers scrambled to adjust tactics. Yet every adjustment seemed pointless. The humans were always a step ahead. Back on the human ship, Arlen looked out at the field of enemies. His mind was calm, but inside he felt the weight of every life aboard his ship. They had all volunteered for this mission, knowing the odds were against them. But humans had something no other race could match: courage, creativity, and the will to survive against impossible odds. Each shot fired, each maneuver executed, reflected that determination. The Galactic Throne's admirals had fought countless battles, yet this one felt different. It was as if the humans were not just defending themselves, they were teaching the galaxy a lesson. Ships exploded in bursts of light, debris scattered across the void, and yet the human warship moved through the chaos unharmed. Zora's voice trembled over the comms. Pull back immediately. But it was too late. Humans had already exploited a weakness he did not even know existed. Systems on his own flagship began to fail, and his fleet faltered. The unknown human warship glided forward with terrifying confidence, its energy weapons finding every gap, every vulnerable point. No one knew where the ship had come from. No one knew its true power. And yet, all the Galactic Throne could do was watch and fear as humans, long underestimated and dismissed, began to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. Inside the warship, Arlen gave one final order for the first stage of their plan. Explosions and bursts of energy filled the battlefield. Galactic fleets scattered, trying to regroup, but every move seemed to fall into the humans' hands. For the first time in centuries, the Throne's leaders tasted panic, and as the unknown human warship continued to move forward, the crew aboard whispered among themselves. They knew this was just the beginning. No one in the galaxy would ever underestimate humans again. The stars were quiet again. But this time, the quiet carried a new fear. A human warship had arrived, and with it, the galaxy had learned that even the most powerful empires could face regret beyond imagining. The Galactic Throne fleet reeled from the sudden strike of the human warship. Smoke and debris floated across the void, and alarms screamed across command bridges. Thousands of officers shouted orders, trying to organize a counterattack, but confusion spread like wildfire. For the first time in history, the mighty empires faced a human opponent they could not predict. Captain Arlen watched the chaos calmly from his bridge. His crew worked like a single mind, responding to every signal, every threat, every movement of the enemy. Drones shot out from the ship, striking with perfect timing. Energy pulses struck shields in sequence, crippling enemy vessels without harming human fighters. Every human on board knew their place, their task, and their power. "Target the left flank," Arlen said. His voice was calm but firm. "Don't hesitate. We have one chance to make them regret underestimating us." The left flank of the Galactic Fleet tried to form a defensive line, but it was already too late. The humans moved with a precision that seemed impossible. One by one, enemy ships were forced to retreat or face destruction. Explosions lit up the darkness of space, casting eerie shadows across the surviving vessels. Among the Galactic Throne leaders, fear had taken hold. Admiral Zorth tried to keep his officers focused, but doubt spread quickly. "How can one ship do this to our entire fleet?" he muttered. "This is impossible. Humans are weak. We have destroyed their colonies before. They should not be able to fight like this." But it was true. Humans had always been underestimated. For centuries, other races had dismissed them as primitive and weak. They had survived attacks, starvation, and exile. And now, when the galaxy believed humans would never challenge them, a single warship had appeared to prove them wrong. Back on the human warship, engineers monitored systems, making adjustments on the fly. Weapons were recharged, shields were strengthened, and drones prepared for the next wave of attacks. Each human understood that every second mattered. One mistake could mean the end of their mission, and the fate of the galaxy might hinge on their success. Suddenly, a new threat appeared on the sensors. A squadron of elite enemy fighters jumped from hyperspace, attempting to flank the human warship. They moved fast, hoping to catch the humans off guard. But Arlen had already anticipated this move. "Deploy interceptors. Focus on the approaching squadron," he ordered. Within seconds, small but deadly human ships launched from hidden bays. They struck with lightning speed, destroying enemy fighters before they could reach the main vessel. The human warship did not even slow down as it moved deeper into the battlefield. Every maneuver by the humans seemed to surprise the Galactic Throne fleet. Their tactics were flawless, their movements unpredictable, their strength unmatched. Even the bravest officers began to question everything they had known about war. The humans were not just fighting, they were rewriting the rules of battle. In the central command of the throne, panic grew. Reports came in that more ships were failing, systems were offline, and communication networks were being jammed. Zora slammed his fist on the console, furious and terrified. "We cannot let this ship survive. We must destroy it at all costs." But every attack they launched was met with countermeasures. Lasers were deflected, missiles intercepted, ships outmaneuvered. The humans seemed to anticipate every move before it happened. And yet, there was no arrogance on the bridge of the human warship. The crew worked silently, focused on their mission, moving as one dot in space. Debris floated between the fleets like a deadly cloud. Fires from destroyed ships painted the darkness in shades of red and orange. The Throne's fleet began to fracture, divisions forming as fear and confusion spread. Humans, however, remained steady. Their strategy was clear. They were here for a reason, and nothing would distract them from it. Captain Arlen looked out into the void and whispered, "Let them see what humans are capable of." As the human warship moved forward, the tide of the battle shifted even more. Throne commanders realized that this was not just a fight, they were witnessing the rise of a force they had ignored for too long. A single human ship had turned the battlefield into a nightmare for every empire in the sector. And somewhere deep inside every officer watching from the Throne fleet, a new fear had taken root. It was not just the loss of ships or soldiers. It was the realization that humans, long underestimated, could change the balance of the galaxy forever. The human warship glided through the chaos, calm and unstoppable. And in the silence between explosions, one truth became clear. The galaxy would never forget this day. Humans were no longer weak, no longer submissive, and no longer to be ignored. The battle continued to rage across the stars. Debris floated like deadly clouds, lighting up space with bursts of fire and explosions. The Galactic Throne fleet had regrouped, but morale was breaking fast. Officers whispered among themselves, fear evident in every word. How could a single human warship move through their forces with such deadly precision? Captain Arlen watched the enemy from the bridge. His eyes scanned multiple displays, tracking every ship, every missile, every pulse of energy. Calmly, he gave orders that were followed without question. The crew knew him, trusted him, and believed in the mission. Each human on board understood that their actions today would change the galaxy forever. The Throne had tried every tactic they knew. Missiles, laser swarms, energy nets, and flanking maneuvers, they all failed. The humans adapted instantly. Every attack was countered, every movement anticipated. Galactic admirals grew desperate. "Focus all fire on the rear," Zorth commanded. "We must stop it before it reaches the core fleet." Human drones moved ahead, intercepting the oncoming strikes. Explosions filled the void as enemy ships were blown apart before they could even fire. The warship seemed to glide effortlessly, almost as if space itself obeyed its movements. Inside the human warship, Arlen, second in command, Lieutenant Mara, tapped rapidly on a control panel. "Captain, sensors show multiple enemy groups attempting to encircle us." "They are coordinating now," Arlen nodded. "Let them try. We will teach them what humans are capable of." Launch counter drone wave 3. Focus on the flanks, then advance. Within moments, hundreds of small, fast-moving drones shot out from hidden bays. They darted through the battlefield, striking the encircling fleets with precision. Shields were pierced, engines destroyed, and enemy formations scattered. The Galactic Throne's admirals stared in disbelief. Every attack they made was matched by the humans, and each time, they lost more ships. Zora's frustration grew. "We have faced the deadliest races in the galaxy," he muttered. "We have conquered countless worlds. And yet, this human ship is destroying everything we know." On the human bridge, there was no arrogance. There was only focus. Each crew member worked in perfect synchronization. Lasers fired, missiles launched, and energy pulses struck at exact intervals. Every strike, every movement, showed a mix of strategy, courage, and something the galaxy had never understood about humans: creativity. In one corner of space, an elite throne squadron attempted a daring maneuver. They hoped to attack from behind while the humans were distracted. The fleet commander's voice rang with authority: "Strike now. Their shields cannot hold forever." But the humans had already anticipated this. Sensors picked up the squadron before it even emerged from hyperspace. "Prepare interceptors," Arlen said. Within seconds, sleek human fighters launched, meeting the enemy before they could close in. The squadron was annihilated in minutes, leaving the rest of the throne fleet shocked and demoralized. The battle's intensity increased. Energy weapons lit the darkness, explosions painted the void with colors of fire and metal, and ships collided, shattered, and drifted aimlessly. Despite the chaos, the human warship moved like a shadow, calm and unstoppable. Every move it made seemed impossible, almost magical. Zorth began to realize the truth. It was not just the weapons. It was not just the speed or strategy. It was the humans themselves. Their courage, their unity, their willingness to face impossible odds without fear. That was something no other race could understand, and it made them deadly. "Captain," Lieutenant Mara said quietly, "they're trying a new formation. It looks like they want to trap us in the center." Arlen studied the formation for a moment. "Let them come. We will show them the strength of a human fleet, even if it is just one ship." The humans moved forward, slicing through the enemy lines. Each strike was precise, calculated, and devastating. Enemy ships exploded in waves. Panic spread through the throne's fleet. Communications broke down as chaos became complete. It was the first real defeat the Empire had ever experienced. In the silence between the battles, one thought rang through the minds of every human on the warship. They were not just fighting to survive. They were fighting to prove something to the galaxy. That humans, long dismissed and underestimated, could change the course of history. The throne fleet faltered again. Ships turned to flee, while admirals shouted orders that could not be executed fast enough. The humans had become more than a threat. They had become a symbol of fear and power that no one could ignore. And through the darkness of space, the warship moved on, calm, unstoppable, and determined. Captain Arlen knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy would remember this day. Humans had arrived, and they had already begun to rewrite the rules of war forever. The human warship pressed forward, cutting through the remnants of the throne's fleet with unstoppable precision. Explosions lit the darkness of space, leaving trails of burning debris behind. The enemy had tried every tactic, but nothing worked. Every time they thought they had found a weakness, the humans adapted instantly, striking back with even greater force. Inside the human ship, Captain Arlen moved with calm determination. He watched the battle unfold on multiple screens, his mind calculating every move. His crew worked like a single organism, each person anticipating the next action. Every human aboard understood the stakes. Failure was not an option. Meanwhile, Admiral Zora's frustration had turned into outright panic. The throne fleet had lost more ships in the past hour than in any previous battle. Orders were shouted, formations shifted, and counterattacks launched, but all in vain. Each attempt to trap or destroy the human warship ended in disaster. "They are too fast, too precise," Zorth muttered. "How is this possible? They are only one ship." The human ship glided through the battlefield, its energy shields flickering but holding strong. Laser beams struck its hull, but nothing penetrated. Arlen gave an order, and missiles streaked from hidden bays, finding gaps in the enemy fleet with surgical accuracy. Ships exploded in fireballs, and the rest of the throne fleet faltered under the relentless assault. Arlen's second in command, Lieutenant Mara, turned to him. "Captain, the throne is regrouping for a massive strike. If they succeed, it could overwhelm us." Arlen's eyes narrowed. "Then we show them what humans can do under pressure. Launch the decoy drones and redirect their focus. Then hit their core ships." The decoy drones shot out in all directions, creating a storm of targets. The throne's weapons fired relentlessly, but they struck emptiness. Meanwhile, the real human warship moved behind the enemy lines, silently targeting the command ships. Explosions erupted as core vessels were destroyed. The throne fleet lost coordination, and fear spread like wildfire dot in one corner of space. A squadron of elite throne fighters tried to flank the humans from above. They moved with precision, hoping to surprise the warship. But the humans had anticipated this. Interceptors launched instantly, destroying the squadron before it could reach the target. Each strike was perfect, leaving no room for error. The throne admirals began to realize a terrifying truth. This was not just a battle. They were facing a species that could think and act faster than any technology they had ever seen. Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and fearless. Every strike, every move, every decision showed intelligence and courage beyond imagination. Zora's voice trembled as he shouted orders. "Concentrate fire. We cannot let them continue. All units, attack together." But it was too late. The humans had already infiltrated the heart of the fleet. Their energy weapons found weak points no one else had noticed. Ships exploded in waves, engines disabled, and communication networks jammed. Panic overtook discipline, and the throne's forces began to scatter. On the human ship, the crew worked silently but efficiently. Every human knew their part in the battle. Engineers repaired damage, weapons officers fired in perfect sequence, and navigators guided the ship through chaos without hesitation. They were calm, focused, and united. Arlen looked out into the void and felt a sense of pride. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, dismissed as weak and unworthy. And yet, here they were, proving the galaxy wrong. Not through brute strength alone, but through courage, strategy, and unity. The throne fleet, now disorganized and weakened, attempted one last massive strike. Dozens of warships fired in unison, creating a storm of energy and missiles. The human warship shields flared under the assault, but Arlen remained calm. "Divert power to the front shields. Prepare the counter-strike." Within moments, the humans unleashed a precise volley of missiles and energy pulses, destroying key enemy ships and crippling the rest. The throne fleet was in full retreat, unable to regroup or counterattack. The humans had not just survived, they had turned the battle completely in their favor. For the first time, Admiral Zora faced reality. The humans were not weak. They were not ordinary. They were a force the galaxy had never imagined, and underestimating them had been the gravest mistake of his life. The human warship moved forward through the shattered battlefield. Flames and debris floated around them, but the crew remained steady. Captain Arlen knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy would remember this day. Humans had arrived, and their presence would change everything. And in the quiet moments between the battles, the humans felt something no enemy could destroy: confidence. They had faced overwhelming odds, and they had proven that courage, intelligence, and unity could defeat even the greatest powers in the galaxy. The battlefield had become a chaotic storm of fire and debris. The throne fleet was scattered, but their determination remained. They refused to admit defeat, even as their ships were destroyed one by one. They had never faced a foe like this before, a single human warship that moved with deadly precision, and confidence died inside the human ship. Captain Arlen stood silently on the bridge, observing the battlefield. His crew moved with perfect synchronization, each human acting instinctively, guided by training and courage. Every weapon fired, every drone launched, every maneuver executed was part of a plan only Arlen fully understood. Lieutenant Mara approached. "Captain, they're regrouping again. This time, They're trying to form a massive wedge to surround us. Arlen's eyes narrowed. Let them try. They don't understand humans. We will show them what it means to underestimate us. The throne admirals had been watching the battle unfold, panic rising with each passing moment. Ships were exploding faster than they could replace them, and communications were failing. Concentrate all firepower on the human ship. One commander shouted, destroy it before it reaches the core. But the humans had already anticipated this move. Drones and decoy systems scattered across the battlefield, creating false targets. The throne fleet fired blindly into the void, wasting energy and ammunition while the human warship advanced steadily. Each maneuver was precise, each strike deadly. Arlen's strategy was clear: weaken the enemy fleet while avoiding unnecessary losses. Missiles streaked across space, striking critical systems on command ships. Energy beams disabled engines, leaving enemy vessels drifting helplessly. The throne fleet faltered as panic spread among its officers. Zorath could not believe what he was seeing. How could one ship do this to our entire fleet? Humans are supposed to be weak. They cannot possibly survive. Yet survive they did, and more than survive they thrived. Every attack the throne launched was met with countermeasures, every trap was avoided, and every strike delivered by humans caused chaos in the enemy ranks. Arlen gave another order: prepare the interceptors for a flanking maneuver. Target the rear ships of the wedge formation. Within moments, hundreds of small, fast-moving human fighters launched from hidden bays. They struck the throne's rear line with deadly accuracy, cutting through engines, weapons, and shields. The wedge formation collapsed, leaving the throne fleet vulnerable. Explosions lit the darkness of space, signaling the destruction of key vessels. The throne admirals realized their fleet was crumbling. Morale was breaking, and fear had replaced confidence. Ships turned to flee, while others drifted helplessly, their systems offline. Humans had not only survived, they had turned the battlefield into their own. On the human bridge, engineers worked quietly to repair minor damage. Weapons officers recalibrated energy beams, and navigators guided the ship through the battlefield with perfect precision. Every human aboard knew that they were making history. Every action was a statement. Humans would no longer be ignored. Suddenly, Zorath issued a desperate command. All remaining ships, combine for a final strike. Target the human warship's shields. We must destroy it before it reaches the throne. The human warship surged forward, cutting through the enemy line with unstoppable force. Shields flared as missiles and lasers struck, but the humans had already calculated the attack. Energy diverted, weapons fired, drones intercepted missiles, and the throne's final strike failed completely. The humans moved deeper into the heart of the battlefield. Flames and wreckage floated past them, a testament to the chaos they had caused. Captain Arlen looked at the destruction and felt no joy, only focus. The mission was not yet over, and the galaxy's greatest empire still underestimated humans. Lieutenant Mara reported urgently, Captain, their flagship is attempting to retreat, but the escape route is exposed. If we move now, we can intercept. Arlen nodded. Prepare for final engagement. This ends today. The human warship advanced, and the throne's flagship turned to face them. Energy shields flared, weapons charged, and the fleet prepared for what they hoped would be a final victory. But humans were not like any enemy they had faced. With calm determination, precision strikes, and unstoppable courage, the warship closed the distance, cutting through defenses, destroying critical systems, and leaving the throne fleet in chaos. The galaxy watched in disbelief. One human warship had defeated fleets, destroyed command ships, and shattered the morale of the most powerful empires. The legends of human weakness had been proven false. The humans had arrived, not as survivors, but as conquerors of strategy, courage, and determination. And as the throne flagship faltered, the human crew felt something profound. They had survived impossible odds, and they had proven that humans could face the strongest empires and come out victorious. The galaxy would never forget this battle. The throne fleet was in disarray. Smoke and debris floated through space like drifting stars, evidence of the chaos the human warship had caused. The once confident admirals now shouted orders in panic, but their commands came too late. Every move they made was anticipated, countered, and destroyed. Captain Arlen stood on the bridge, calm and composed. His crew moved with quiet efficiency, each human performing their duties with precision. Every maneuver, every strike, every decision had been calculated to perfection. The humans were not just fighting, they were rewriting the rules of war. Captain, Lieutenant Mara said, the flagship is retreating toward the outer rim. They may attempt to regroup for one final strike. Arlen's eyes narrowed. Let them come. They think they can escape, but humans do not follow weakness, they chase it. Prepare for pursuit. Target all critical systems. The throne's flagship moved fast, but the human warship was faster. Missiles streaked across the void, striking engines, weapons, and shields. The throne fleet tried to form a defensive line, but it was too late. Panic had already spread among their officers, and every human strike left another gap in their formation. Admiral Zora's voice trembled as he barked orders. We cannot let them reach our command fleet. Concentrate firepower. Destroy that ship at any cost. But the humans had anticipated this. Decoy drones launched, creating multiple false targets. Energy pulses struck precise points on the enemy flagship, crippling propulsion systems. Lasers and missiles disabled weapon banks. The humans advanced with unstoppable determination, showing no fear, no hesitation, only focus. In the chaos, smaller throne ships tried to flank the human warship. They believed numbers could overwhelm it. They were wrong. Interceptors launched from hidden bays, striking the flankers before they could get close. Explosions tore through enemy lines, leaving the throne officers stunned. One by one, ships were destroyed or forced to retreat inside the human bridge. Arlen gave quiet orders. Divert energy to shields. Prepare the main cannons. Target the flagship's core. This ends now. The crew obeyed instantly. Weapons charged, drones positioned, and shields reinforced. The human warship surged forward like a predator, cutting through the remaining forces with precise strikes. Every pulse of energy, every missile, every laser hit its mark. The throne fleet could no longer regroup. Fear had replaced strategy. Zorth realized the truth: his fleet was finished. Humans were not weak, not unpredictable, and not ordinary. They were a force of nature, intelligent, fearless, and unstoppable. The very idea of underestimating them had been a grave mistake. Captain, Mara said, the flagship's main weapons are offline. Shields are weakening. We can finish this now. Arlen nodded silently. Prepare for final strike. Target their core systems. Show them the cost of underestimating humans. The human warship unleashed a concentrated volley of missiles and energy beams. The throne flagship shuddered under the assault. Explosions ripped through its hull. Systems failed, and the once mighty command ship began to drift helplessly in space. Panic spread across the remaining fleet. Ships turned to flee, but escape routes were cut off by human drones. The throne admiral stared in disbelief. One human warship had defeated entire fleets, destroyed their flagship, and shattered centuries of dominance. Their empire, which had ruled countless worlds, now faced the harsh reality of human power. On the human bridge, the crew remained calm but proud. They had faced impossible odds and prevailed. Captain Arlen looked at the stars ahead, knowing the galaxy would remember this moment. Humans had arrived not as victims, not as the underestimated species, but as masters of strategy, courage, and unity. The throne flagship emitted its final signals, a quiet surrender in the chaos of destruction. Explosions and fireballs marked the end of the battle. The human warship moved forward through the remnants of the fleet, unharmed and unstoppable. And in the silence after the battle, one thought rang clear among the human crew: the galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. They had been dismissed, ignored, and attacked, but now they had proven that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the greatest powers in the universe. Captain Arlen turned to his crew. We have done what others said was impossible. We have shown the galaxy who humans are. Remember this day. It is only the beginning. The stars were quiet again, but this time, the silence carried a new message for the galaxy. Humans had arrived, and the age of underestimation was over. Every empire, every fleet, every ruler would now think twice before challenging them. The human warship glided forward, ready for whatever lay ahead, leaving behind a galaxy that had learned a hard truth. The humans were not to be ignored, and their power was only beginning to be understood. The battlefield was quiet, but the silence was tense. The throne fleet had been shattered. Debris floated through the void, and the few remaining ships were in retreat, their morale broken. The galaxy had witnessed a force it had never imagined. One human warship had turned the tide of countless fleets, leaving empires in shock. Captain Arlen stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the remnants of the throne flagship drifting helplessly through space. His crew worked silently, repairing minor damage and monitoring the battlefield. Every human aboard understood the magnitude of what they had achieved. They had faced impossible odds, and yet here they were, Victorious, Lieutenant Mara approached him. "Captain, all enemy resistance has collapsed. They're retreating in every direction. The battle is over." Arlen nodded slowly. "It is over, but the galaxy will remember this. Humans have shown what they are capable of. From now on, no one will underestimate us." The remaining throne ships tried to escape, but the humans allowed them passage, knowing that mercy could also be a form of power. Many ships turned back to their home systems, carrying stories of fear, awe, and respect for a species that had survived and triumphed against overwhelming odds. Zora sat on his command deck, defeated. He had underestimated humans for centuries, believing them weak, predictable, and insignificant. Now he understood that humans were something else entirely. They were intelligent, courageous, and adaptable beyond anything he had imagined. His fleet lay in ruins, his empire humiliated, and the galaxy had seen the rise of a new power. Back on the human warship, the crew celebrated quietly. They did not cheer loudly, they were disciplined and focused, but there was a shared pride that warmed every corner of the ship. Each human knew they had been part of history. Every human knew that today, the galaxy had changed forever. Captain Arlen looked out into the vast darkness of space. Stars twinkled in silence, as if observing the victory. He thought of the humans who had come before them, those who had been dismissed and defeated, yet had survived. Their courage, their determination, and their unity had led to this moment. The warship had been a single point of strength, but it represented every human who had ever dared to dream, to fight, and to survive. A soft voice from the communications console interrupted his thoughts. "Captain, messages are coming in from colonies across human space. They're celebrating the victory and preparing to honor the crew." Arlen allowed a small smile. "Let them celebrate. They have earned it." In the aftermath, the galaxy began to change. News of the battle spread like wildfire. Humans were no longer ignored. Empires that had once dismissed them began to take notice, reevaluating every decision, every strategy, every plan that involved humans. Fear and respect replaced arrogance. The throne fleet retreated, but their leaders would never forget the day a single human warship had humbled them. Stories of courage, precision, and unstoppable strategy spread across star systems. Humans were no longer a minor race, they had become a symbol of strength, intelligence, and determination. Arlen turned to his crew one last time. "This victory is only the beginning. Remember what we have done today. The galaxy will remember humans, but we must also continue to prove ourselves. Our journey is just beginning." The crew nodded. Each human felt the weight of history on their shoulders, but also the pride of achievement. They had survived what no one else thought possible. They had faced the mightiest fleets in the galaxy and emerged victorious. They had proven that humans, even underestimated and dismissed, could change the course of history. The human warship glided forward, leaving behind the battlefield, the shattered fleets, and the fear-stricken admirals of the throne. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, full of opportunities, challenges, and adventures. But one truth was now clear to the galaxy: humans were not to be underestimated, and their courage, intelligence, and determination would shape the future of the universe forever. And in that quiet, vast expanse of space, a single thought echoed among every human aboard the ship: they had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The stars shimmered, the void was still, and the humans had proven their place among the greatest powers in the galaxy.